Thanks so much for that question, and it is one that we hear a lot. Before I attempt to answer it, let me ask you this in return. Is your boss a reasonable, rational human being? Okay, well that's great. So they're not a psycho, which is an excellent start. And so that means it's probably worthwhile trying to have this conversation. So what are the steps? Well, I would suggest that your very first step is to ask for permission. This really helps in a number of different ways. It's very respectful, but it also gives your boss a heads up that there's something coming up that's a little bit out of the ordinary. And it suggests that you're going to need some one-to-one time with them, something in private. The second step would be to share your purpose, to tell your boss why it is that you're having this difficult conversation, which really isn't that much fun, right? And as far as you can, to align, dreadful word, but we'll use it in this situation, align your purpose with your boss's. So what do you care about that he or she might also care about? If you think that your purpose might be misunderstood, then you can use contrasting. So for example, you might say to your boss, what I'm really trying to do here is make sure that we hit budget and deadline. What I'm not trying to do is to make your life more difficult. So with that contrast, you can be really, really clear on why you're having the conversation. Step 3 is all about sharing your truths. So sharing the facts as facts. And you do this confidently because they're true. So it might sound something like, in the last month you've given me 3 new projects or significant parts of projects. These aren't part of my annual objectives and I'm struggling to prioritize. Once you've done that, you can then share the consequences. Now, there are official and natural consequences. If it's your boss, the chances are you're not going to have many official consequences to work with. So stick with the natural consequences. So the natural consequences in this case of, for example, your boss expecting you to do more work than you think is reasonable, are that you're going to get burnt out or that you might decide to leave the organization. Consequences are not the same as a threat, and you need to be very careful that you don't come across as threatening. What's most key is that your consequences, the ones you choose, are what's of interest to your boss. So for example, if it is about work-life balance and there's a new organizational initiative around work-life balance, then your boss might be, what's the word I'm looking for, incentivized to want to be seen as somebody who's supporting that. So how do you find out what those consequences are that are most likely to be of interest to your boss? Well, that's really back to listening again, listening hard and really understanding where the other person is coming from. Once you've shared your consequences, you can then start to think about barriers to change. So you can use the 6 sources of influence to think about what might stop your boss and you from being able to behave in the way that you've now decided you want to. One conversation may not be enough. Everybody reverts back to type very quickly under pressure. So be prepared to have that conversation more than once. Everybody at every level of an organization needs to be held accountable, even leaders. And real leaders at every level of an organization know how to do that. I hope that was helpful, and do let me know how it goes.